Welcome to your gateway to mastering the elementary education test, proudly presented by teacherpreps.com. This exam consists of 2 subtests, which you can take together or separately in a 4-hour session. In Subtest 1, you'll face 52 selected response questions and 1 constructed response assignment focused on reading and language arts. That's 55% of the test devoted to reading and 30% to language arts, with a constructed response making up the remaining 15%. Feeling overwhelmed about your exam? Give yourself the interactive study guides, video lessons, and practice tests aligned with the exam content to make passing the elementary education test simpler than ever. Get signed up now at teacherpreps.com and move from panicked to prepped to passed at teacherpreps.com. Hello, future teacher, and welcome to your go-to guide for passing your teacher certification exam. In this lesson, you'll learn everything you need to know about providing effective reading instruction, so you'll be totally ready for exam day. Ready to dive in? Let's begin with the foundations of standards-based reading. When you step into your classroom, your mission is crystal clear. Help every student meet those crucial state content standards. Think of these standards as your teaching roadmap, guiding each child towards academic success by the end of the school year. Now, how do we achieve this? Through a balanced and comprehensive English language arts program. Balance is key. Focus more on skills your students struggle with while maintaining a steady pace on others. And remember, comprehensive means covering all skills without overemphasizing any. This dual approach ensures every student gets exactly what they need. Moving on, next, we have differentiating reading instruction. On test day, watch for questions about tailoring instruction to diverse learners. Here's your insider tip. Differentiation is your best friend. Start by assessing what your students know. Use this info to adjust the pace and complexity of your lessons. And don't forget about scaffolds, like graphic organizers or visual aids, to support learning. Remember to look for ways to group students effectively. Whether it's whole class, for uniform lessons, or mixed groups for varied interactions, your strategy should fit the reading level and needs of your students. Now, let's break down the instructional delivery into clear stages so you fully understand effective instructional delivery. First, the orientation. This is your teaser trailer, giving students a glimpse of the learning journey ahead. Next up, the presentation. This is where you shine, delivering the content clearly and directly. Follow this with guided practice, where you step in as a coach, observing and nudging your students towards mastery. And finally, independent practice. Think of this as their solo flight, where students apply what they've learned without your direct help. Now, let's talk engaging and motivating strategies. Your secret sauce to a lively classroom. Decorate your space to inspire, use positive reinforcements, and ensure respect and kindness fill every corner of your classroom. When taking your exam, be on the lookout for selected responses that use strategies like book clubs and literature circles to make reading a social, exciting venture. These strategies not only enhance the love for reading, but also build a supportive community among your students. As teachers, we need to promote independent reading. Teach them the 5-finger test. Have them read a random page in a book, raising a finger for each unknown word. 1 or 2 fingers? Too easy. 4 or 5? Too tough. But 3? Just right. And don't overlook the power of student interests. Use interest inventories to stock your library with topics they love. Structured reading times like sustained silent reading are essential to nurture a habit of reading. And remember, reading doesn't stop at the classroom door. Coordinate with parents to support at-home reading routines. Woo, that was a power-packed session. Now, don't let the momentum stop here. Log into teacherpreps.com to take this reading instruction practice test to see how these strategies come to life in exam questions. Phonological and phonemic awareness. Hello, aspiring educators. Welcome to your essential guide for mastering phonological and phonemic awareness, key content in your teacher certification exam. Ready to get fully prepped? Let's begin this auditory adventure. First, by understanding that phonological awareness is your toolkit for recognizing and manipulating the broader sounds of spoken language, from rhymes to syllables to alliterations. Phonemic awareness zooms in further, focusing on the individual sounds, or phonemes, that make up words. It's crucial for decoding written language. Remember, phonemic awareness is a subset of phonological awareness, each playing a critical role in reading development. Next, let's have a refresher on the historical context and importance of phonological and phonemic awareness. In the late 20th century, researchers like Isabel Lieberman illuminated phonemic awareness's vital role in reading and spelling. Their pioneering studies established that early phonemic awareness is a strong predictor of later reading success. This research bridged the gap during the reading wars, advocating for a balanced approach that includes both phonics and whole language learning, with a strong emphasis on the sounds of language. Moving forward, let's talk about strategies to teach phonological awareness. First, start with word awareness by asking students to identify words as separate meaning units. For example, question how many words are in the sentence. The cat is sleeping. Progress to syllable awareness, such as clapping out the syllables in elephant. Use word and syllable blending activities to build their ability to connect spoken language to reading. When teaching phonemic awareness, start by isolating individual sounds in words to enhance decoding skills. Start by helping a student identify the initial sound in a word. For example, asking, "What is the beginning sound of bat?" And the student should respond with the sound B. Next, introduce sound blending by saying the separate sounds in bat, like B, A, T, and asking the student to merge these sounds to form the word bat. Engage students in sound identity, teaching them to recognize the same sounds in different words. For instance, what sound is common in man, mouse, and moon? Answer, M sound. Substitution. Helping students change one sound in a word to create a new word. Like, if you change the B in bat to C, what new word do you get? Answer, cat. Sound deletion, encouraging them to remove a sound to form a new word. For example, what word remains if you remove the S from star? Answer, tar. Sound segmentation, teaching them to break a word into its individual sounds, such as having the student articulate each sound in bat as B-A-T. These activities are critical for developing the ability to manipulate sounds, which is essential for reading proficiency and phonics mastery. Now, let's move to the phonemic awareness-phonics connection. Understanding individual sounds is the precursor to phonics, where students learn the relationship between letters and sounds. Use phonemic awareness activities to introduce phonics concepts. For example, after successfully blending sounds to form a word, introduce the written form of the word, linking spoken sounds to their letter representations. On test day, you'll be required to demonstrate your understanding for providing effective reading strategies for diverse learners. For struggling readers and students with special needs, focus on reteaching missing skills and using concrete examples. English learners might need extra help with non-transferable sounds, like the H sound in English. Advanced learners can benefit from increased instruction pace and more complex tasks. In order to provide effective assessments in phonological and phonemic awareness, use entry-level assessments to gauge initial understanding, progress monitoring assessments to check ongoing understanding, and summative assessments to evaluate comprehension at the end of instruction. Your exam will likely present you with a question about providing effective assessments, so look for solutions that tailor future lessons based on assessment data to ensure all students develop strong phonological and phonemic awareness. In today's lesson, you learned phonological awareness helps students recognize sounds in spoken language, from rhymes to syllables. Phonemic awareness allows students to identify and manipulate individual phonemes, which are vital for decoding words. Progression to phonics phonemic awareness is essential for linking sounds to their corresponding letters, forming the basis for phonics, which underpins reading and writing. Adapting for all learners. We explored strategies that adapt to every student's needs, ensuring that whether they're just starting out or moving ahead quickly, their learning is supported and successful. Fantastic work today, educator. Unlock full access to your teacher certification test prep at teacherpreps.com to take your phonological and phonemic awareness practice test now, so you are 100% prepared for test day. Hello, future teacher. Welcome to a vibrant exploration of the concepts about print. If you're here because you need to pass your teacher certification exam, you have found the right place. Your exam will require you to know that concepts about print has 4 foundational elements that form the backbone of reading education, which include the understanding that, first, the words on a page are not just marks, they convey meaning. Second, there is a difference between a letter, a word, and a sentence. This is called representation, and it includes identifying word boundaries and understanding punctuation marks, like periods, exclamation points, and question marks. Third is directionality, and this is knowing that in English, we read text from left to right and from top to bottom. Test tip. If you get a question on test day about how to assess directionality, look for a response where the student in the question can point to the word that comes next during reading. Fourth is book handling skills, and this is the understanding of how to hold a book correctly, differentiate between the front and back covers, and handle books with care. Now, let's move to teaching concepts about print. The effective instructional strategy to look for is called the shared book experience, and this happens when the teacher uses a big book to introduce the book cover, author, and title, reads with dramatic flair, pauses for predictions, and discusses the story, encouraging students to share their thoughts and favorite parts. And finally, the teacher reread the story later, allowing students to act out parts, enhancing their understanding and engagement. Next, you need to know about the importance of letter recognition, which involves students pointing to letters as you name them, connecting auditory clues to visual symbols. This skill is critical for reading development, as quick and accurate letter recognition sets the stage for effective phonics learning. When it comes to teaching letter recognition, naming, and formation, don't get tripped up on test day. Use these strategies. For teaching letter recognition, use associative learning by linking objects with letters. For teaching letter naming, sing songs, and use books that emphasize letter sounds and shapes. For teaching letter formation, engage in writing practice that includes tactile and kinesthetic activities to reinforce letter shapes and sounds. Moving to our next topic, another heavy hitter on your teacher certification exam, and one you'll want to know well, is the alphabetic principle. This is the understanding that each letter represents a sound, and it's a foundational concept for phonics. This principle helps students make the crucial connection between spoken sounds and written symbols, preparing them for more advanced reading skills. You might be asking how this is all connected, and that would be a great question, because your exam will check your knowledge about the role of writing in reading development. Remember to read your exam closely and identify answer solutions that encourage phonetic spelling, also known as invented spelling, where children approximate the spelling of words. And if you receive a question that goes beyond this information and asks why this is important, well, it's because for young learners, teachers need to foster a sense of confidence in their students' writing abilities. You will absolutely receive questions about adapting instruction for all learners. So remember, for struggling readers, focus on key skills, reteach missing concepts, and use concrete examples. For English learners, build on connections from their first language to English, and for advanced readers, increase instruction pace and extend learning opportunities to keep them challenged and engaged. Incredible job today, colleague. To fully cement these concepts and ensure you're ready for test day, head over to teacherpreps.com. Take our specialized practice test on concepts about print and prepare to pass your teacher certification exam on your next try. Phonics and sight words. Welcome, future educator, to your gateway to mastering phonics and sight words. These aren't just buzzwords, they are your keys to acing your teacher certification exam. Imagine a child saying, "Let's go to the park." This simple act of speaking sets the stage for what we call oral language development, a foundational step in reading. As the child spots the word park, we witness word identification in action. It's their first step in connecting spoken words to written ones. But recognizing the word isn't enough. Through repeated exposure and learning, the child transitions from mere recognition to what we call automaticity, reading the word park swiftly and understanding its meaning instantly. This journey from oral language to automaticity underscores the critical role of phonics and sight words. On your exam, expect to receive a question about the teaching progression of phonics. When you spot this question, be on the lookout for an answer solution that demonstrates the understanding that we teach the simplest sounds first. These are your consonant sounds like the soft F in fish or the buzzing Z in zoo. From simple sounds, we then move more complex structures, such as when two letters come together to create a new sound like etch in cherry or thi in that. These are called consonant digraphs, a fancy term, but a simple concept crucial for your exams. And let's not forget the vowels, from short vowels in cat to the long ones in cake, and the more peculiar, R-controlled vowels like the AR in car. Next, let's get you prepped for continuous sounds. These are your friendly, stretchable sounds like S in snake or M in moon. They glide smoothly as you say them. Contrast these with stop sounds, where the airflow stops briefly, giving us sharp, quick sounds like T in top or G in go. Another key player in our phonics journey is inflected morphological units. These are the endings like ed, air, and s, which we add to words to express tense, comparison, or plurality. For instance, jumped shows an action in the past, taller compares, and cats tells us there are more than one. Next, your exam competencies share that we need to know the 5 states of spelling. from the pre-communicative stage, where symbols are just beginning to make sense, to the semi-phonetic stage, where initial sound connections are made. Then, we move to the phonetic stage, where spelling becomes a sound-matching game, though not always perfectly. Then we have the transitional stage, which reveals a deeper understanding, with students wrestling complex sounds and patterns. Finally, the conventional stage, where spelling rules are well understood and applied, though tricky words still pose challenges. Now it's time to move on to effective instructional strategies that you'll want to look for on test day. Keep in mind that as educators, our approach to phonics and sight words must be both systematic and direct. Employ the whole-to-part strategy, where you start with a sentence, break it down to words, and then to letters, embedding context and meaning. Alternatively, the part-to-whole strategy builds from letters to words to sentences, focusing intensely on phonics skills. Your teacher certification exam will ask you to demonstrate your understanding for meeting the needs of all learners in your classroom, so let's get you fully prepared for test day. For struggling readers, emphasize key phonics skills and sight words. Use tactile materials and repetitive activities to reinforce learning. For English learners, blend familiar phonetic patterns with unique English sounds, ensuring clarity and understanding. And for advanced learners, don't hold back. Accelerate the pace, introduce complex concepts, and encourage exploratory activities that push beyond the curriculum. Great job with this lesson. Now it's time to go to teacherpreps.com. If you're not already there, get logged in and take the phonics and sight words practice test to make sure you'll be ready to apply the knowledge from this lesson into a standardized exam. Syllabic analysis, structural analysis, and orthographic knowledge. Welcome, exam warriors! Today, we're zeroing in on how to conquer syllabic analysis, structural analysis, and orthographic knowledge, so you will be totally ready for your teacher certification exam. Ready to turn these concepts into a passing mark? Let's begin. Consider the word replant. Using phonics, you decode the base word plant, but there's a twist, the prefix re, meaning again. Understanding this structure helps you grasp the full meaning, to plant again. This isn't just about decoding, it's about ensuring full comprehension, a skill your exam will definitely test. Let's break down how to teach these skills effectively, because remember, your exam will check your ability to teach them, not just know them. For structural analysis, begin with the whole-to-part strategy. Start with a sentence. The farmer decided to replant the field. Highlight replant and dissect it. Re is your prefix, and plant is the root. Understanding prefixes like re can unlock meanings in countless other words, a critical skill for your reading and literacy sections. Now, syllabic analysis. This isn't just clapping out syllables, it's about applying rules that help decode and spell words accurately, vital for written responses on your test. For example, with a word like replant, identify re as a prefix and plant as a single syllable unit following it. Knowing where to split words into syllables helps in both reading them correctly and spelling them in your written answers. All right, future educator, let's keep the momentum going. Orthographic knowledge extends beyond simple spelling. It encompasses an understanding of word structures, including prefixes, suffixes, and root words. For example, the word unbelievable breaks down into unbelieve and able. Now, how do we teach this effectively? Using the part-to-whole strategy, we'll start with the prefix dis, a common one on your test. Write it on the whiteboard, explain that it often means not or the opposite of, and then build on it. Attach it to connect to form disconnect. Spelling isn't just about memorization. It's about using multisensory techniques to deeply ingrain word forms. For instance, visualize the word independence. Break it down while writing it out, segment by segment, in different colors to highlight its roots and suffixes. Now, gear up to pass your exam on the next try by logging into your Teacher Preps account and completing the real exam-like practice test. Every question you practice, every rule you apply, brings you one step closer to acing that exam and stepping confidently into your teaching career. Thanks for watching. Hello, future educators. Today, we're diving deep into the world of reading fluency, a critical component of literacy that you'll need to master for your teacher certification exam. Let's break down the essentials and equip you with strategies that will not only help your students, but also ensure you excel on test day. First up, let's define reading fluency. It's the ability to read text accurately, at an appropriate rate, and with proper expression, or prosody. Remember, Fluency is a blend of pace and intonation that makes reading sound natural, almost like speaking. This is crucial because lack of fluency can make reading a struggle and severely impact comprehension. On test day, look out for questions that ask you to identify strategies to improve reading fluency. These questions are testing your understanding of how accuracy, rate, and prosody interplay to enhance reading comprehension. Here are the 3 key fluency indicators that you need to know. 1. Accuracy. This is all about reading the right words. A fluent reader recognizes and pronounces words correctly, which is foundational to reading smoothly. 2. Rate. It's not just about speed, it's about appropriate speed. For instance, narrative texts may be read faster to reflect conversational speech, whereas informational texts might require a slower pace to absorb complex ideas. 3. Prosody. Think of prosody as the music of reading. It involves the rhythm, intonation, and stress patterns. Good prosody means reading sentences with the expression that conveys the correct meaning, enhancing the listener's understanding and engagement. U-Exam will require you to demonstrate your understanding about understanding the interrelationships. So let's get into that now. Automaticity is a term you'll want to remember. It refers to the point where decoding words becomes second nature, allowing the reader to focus on the meaning of the text rather than the mechanics of reading. When examining multiple-choice questions, look for stems that ask about the relationship between automaticity, fluency, and comprehension. Now let's move on to the factors that affect fluency. First, we have weak word analysis skills. This includes phonics, sight words, and the ability to analyze word structures. A strong foundation here reduces hesitations and miscues in reading. Then, there's a lack of familiarity with content vocabulary. Words specific to a subject area, like photosynthesis in science, need explicit teaching to build fluency in content areas. Don't forget about having a lack of background knowledge. Students need a basic understanding of the topic at hand to predict and make sense of the text, aiding smoother reading, as well as those tricky, complex syntactic structures. As texts grow in complexity, so does the syntactic structure. Understanding varied sentence types supports better fluency. Get ready to answer test questions about text selection and instructional strategies. So let's talk about this now. Choosing the right text is pivotal. For beginners, decodable texts help build confidence and skill. As students progress, introduce more complex texts that challenge their reading abilities but are still at an appropriate difficulty level. On test day, look for monitored oral reading in your answer solution because it is a fantastic strategy to enhance all aspects of fluency. Here's how it works. 1. Teacher models. First, demonstrate fluent reading. Emphasize accuracy, rate, and prosody. 2. Students practice. Then, have students read the same text aloud. 3. Feedback. Provide specific, constructive feedback. For example, if a student struggles with prosody, you might say, try to raise your pitch at the question mark to indicate it's a question. Now, it's time for specific fluency strategies for accuracy. Focus on phonemic awareness and phonics through direct instruction and practice. Use assessments to pinpoint areas of need and tailor your instruction accordingly. For rate, employ strategies like whisper reading for students who struggle with decoding. This helps them focus on decoding without the pressure of projecting their voice. For prosody, try phrase-cued reading. Marking the text with slashes for pauses can guide students on where to take breaths and how to phrase their reading, which is especially helpful for those struggling with expression. Great job absorbing all this vital information on reading fluency. Now, to truly gauge your understanding and get a feel for the types of questions you'll encounter on your teacher certification exam, head over to teacherpreps.com to take the fluency practice test. This is a fantastic opportunity to apply what you've learned today and see where you stand. Remember, practice makes perfect, and this test is a great step towards ensuring you're fully prepared for exam day. So, don't wait. Take the practice test now and move one step closer to becoming a certified teacher. Hello, aspiring educator. Today, we're covering vocabulary, academic language, and background knowledge in reading development, so you will be 100% ready for your teacher certification exam. Get ready for some aha moments as we explore these concepts in depth. First, let's talk about vocabulary. On test day, look out for questions that link vocabulary knowledge directly to reading fluency. Understanding the meaning of words being read not only helps the reader to read swiftly and accurately, but also enhances overall reading fluency. This is because familiarity with vocabulary reduces the cognitive load during reading, allowing for smoother and faster processing of text. vocabulary and reading comprehension. Vocabulary is also a key indicator of how well a student will comprehend a text. There's a clear correlation here. Knowing the vocabulary within a passage significantly boosts comprehension. Academic language and comprehension. Moving on to academic language, which includes both technical and non-technical terms found within academic texts. A solid grasp of this language type empowers students to better understand and engage with complex texts, thereby improving comprehension. Background knowledge and comprehension. Background knowledge plays a pivotal role in comprehension. For example, a child who has never seen coral reefs may struggle to understand a text about marine biology compared to a peer with direct experience. Developmental continuum for vocabulary growth. Let's get you prepped for test day by understanding the developmental stages of vocabulary is crucial. Unknown words. Words completely unfamiliar to the student. Acquainted words. Words the student recognizes but doesn't fully understand. Established words. Words the student knows well and can use confidently. Spoken versus written vocabulary. Be aware that the vocabulary used in spoken language is often less sophisticated than that found in written texts. This distinction is important because it underscores the need for direct teaching of sophisticated vocabulary to aid in reading comprehension. Now, let's move to factors influencing reading development. When selecting vocabulary to teach, consider frequency, how often a word appears in texts; utility, the usefulness of understanding a word for text comprehension; background knowledge, how familiar students are likely to be with the word. For your exam, be aware that there are vocabulary tiers and selection for instruction. Understanding the 3 tiers of vocabulary is essential. Tier 1, basic words that most children know. Tier 2, high utility and academic vocabulary that is more complex. Tier 3, domain-specific words, often necessary for understanding specific content. Now, let's move forward to strategies for vocabulary instruction, so you can be ready when a multiple-choice question about strategies comes up. Be aware that effective vocabulary instruction involves direct instruction, teaching specific words intensively; word learning strategies, helping students learn how to decipher unfamiliar words independently; word consciousness, encouraging an interest in words and their meanings through engaging activities. Then there's also promoting word consciousness. To foster word consciousness, use activities that explore synonyms, antonyms, homophones, idioms, and etymology. Encourage wide reading to expose students to a variety of vocabulary. Integrate vocabulary into listening, speaking, reading, and writing activities. Expect to receive several questions that ask you to demonstrate your understanding for addressing diverse learning needs. Tailor your instruction to meet the needs of all learners. For struggling readers, focus on essential words and straightforward language. For English learners, utilize visual aids and teach common morphemes. For advanced learners, introduce more complex vocabulary and concepts. You've now equipped yourself with key insights into how vocabulary, academic language, and background knowledge influence reading development. To put your knowledge to the test and ensure you're ready for your certification exam, head over to teacherpreps.com and take the practice test. This will help you assess your understanding and prepare you for exam day. Reading comprehension. Hello, bright educators-to-be. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of reading comprehension, so you will be totally prepared for your teacher certification exam. Starting right off with understanding types of comprehension. 1. Literal comprehension. This is the foundation. It involves understanding the information explicitly stated in the text. On test day, look out for questions that ask you to identify specific details or main points directly from the text. Skills include recognizing story elements like setting, characters, and plot as explicitly described. 2. Inferential comprehension. Here's where critical thinking kicks in. Inferential comprehension requires you to read between the lines. When examining multiple-choice questions, look for stems that ask you to infer meanings or conclusions not directly stated. This might involve predicting outcomes, interpreting character actions, or identifying implicit themes. 3. Evaluative comprehension. The highest level of comprehension. This involves making judgments about what you read, assessing the text's validity, and critiquing its content. Expect exam scenarios where you need to identify an author's bias or evaluate the strength of an argument. Factors influencing reading comprehension. Remember, comprehension doesn't exist in a vacuum. It builds upon foundational skills like word analysis, fluency, and vocabulary. A gap in any of these areas can hinder a student's ability to comprehend text effectively. Navigating text structures. As students progress, they encounter diverse text structures, especially when transitioning from fiction to nonfiction. Now, let's get you prepped all about oral and writing practice for comprehension. Strategic read-alouds. This technique involves reading a text aloud and discussing it strategically to enhance understanding. Questions like, what is the author's message? Or, why is this information important? Help deepen comprehension. Writing exercises. Activities such as writing summaries or creating outlines reinforce understanding by requiring students to process and organize information from the text. Independent reading. Encouraging regular independent reading expands vocabulary and builds familiarity with various writing styles and structures, enhancing overall comprehension. Make sure you have a firm grasp on instructional strategies for effective comprehension before, during, and after reading. Let's talk about this now. Before reading, activate background knowledge. Use tools like KWL charts to connect new information with what students already know. Pre-teach vocabulary. Introduce critical vocabulary before reading to smooth the way for comprehension. Preview the text. Discuss the book's cover, blurb, and pictures to set the stage for reading. While reading, question, classification, answer, verification. Teach students to identify whether a question is literal, inferential, or evaluative. This strategy helps them understand the depth of response required. Visualizing and paraphrasing. These strategies encourage active engagement with the text, improving retention and understanding. After reading, discussion and analysis. Engage students in discussions that explore text to self, text to text, and text to world connections. Graphic organizers. Use tools like story maps or concept webs to visually summarize and analyze the text. For your exam, you're going to need to demonstrate your understanding about the difference between comprehension of literary and informational texts. Let's start with a refresher about recognizing major genres. Genres in literature are categories that help us classify books and stories based on their content, style, and form. Here's a brief overview of some major genres you'll want to be ready to see on your exam. 1. Folktales. These are stories passed down through generations, often orally. They typically involve legend, fairy tales, and fable. 2. Science fiction. This genre explores futuristic, imaginative, or technological advances and their impact on society. 3. Fantasy. Involving magical elements and otherworldly settings, fantasy genres allow for immense creativity and escape. 4. Historical fiction. These stories are set in the past and woven around historical facts, but they include fictional characters and plot. 5. Realistic. These stories could happen in real life and often tackle contemporary, making them relatable and useful for discussion and social. Now, let's talk about story grammar, which refers to the framework that underpins most narrative texts. It's a tool, like a graphic organizer, that helps students understand and predict story structure, making reading a more coherent and satisfying experience. Here are the key elements. 1. Characters. These are the individuals in the story, often including a protagonist, the main character, and an antagonist, the character who opposes the protagonist. 2. Setting. This describes where and when the story takes place. 3. Plot. This is the sequence of events that make up a story. 4. Theme. The theme is the underlying message or the big idea of the story. 5. Style. This refers to how the author uses words to create the story. Now, let's dive specifically into informational texts. Your test administrators want you to take the exam with the mindset that we need to teach students to navigate informational texts by understanding their structures and features like indexes, glossaries, and graphic aids. You've just taken a deep dive into reading comprehension, a critical component of your upcoming teacher certification exam. To solidify your understanding and check your readiness, visit teacherpreps.com and take the practice test on reading comprehension. This will not only test your knowledge, but also give you a real-time experience of handling exam-like questions. Good luck, and thanks for watching. Reading assessment. Hello, future educators. Welcome to your comprehensive guide on reading assessment to help you prepare for your teacher certification exam. Let's begin with an introduction to reading assessments. Assessments in reading are essential for identifying students' current knowledge and skills related to specific standards. They help us create detailed profiles for individual students and the class as a whole, which are invaluable for tracking progress and tailoring instruction throughout the academic year. 3 types of reading assessments. 1. Entry-level assessments. These are conducted before a new lesson or unit to gauge what students already know about the upcoming material. For example, a teacher might use a quick quiz to assess prior knowledge before starting a unit on poetry. 2. Monitoring of progress assessments. Given during the instructional process, these assessments help teachers understand who is grasping the material and who might need more support. An example here could be asking students comprehension questions during a read-aloud session to check for understanding. 3. Summative assessments. These are formal and occur after a learning period, such as at the end of a unit or semester, to evaluate overall learning and mastery of content. An end-of-unit test on a novel study is a common example. Note: remember, entry-level and monitoring of progress assessments are informal, while summative assessments are formal. For your exam, you'll want to be prepared to answer questions about alternative assessments for diverse learners. Students with disabilities might have an Individualized Education Program, IEP, or a Section 504 plan, depending on their specific needs. Interpreting the results of standardized tests. Understanding the reliability and validity of tests is crucial. Reliability refers to the consistency of the test results, and validity concerns whether the test accurately measures what it's intended to assess. Standardized exams can have different types of scores. Percentile scores show how a student's performance compares to peers. For instance, a percentile score of 90 means the student performed better than 90% of their peers. Grade equivalent scores. These scores relate a student's performance to an average expectation for different grade levels, like a score of 6.3, indicating 6th grade, 3rd month performance. Stanine scores. These are based on a 9-point scale, where a score of 5 is average and 9 is the highest. A key factor that you will likely see on test day will test your knowledge of using assessment results to guide instruction. The cycle of assessment is ongoing. 1. Administer the assessment. Gather data on student performance. 2. Analyze results. Determine which students have met, exceeded, or are yet to meet the standards. 3. Create profiles. Develop detailed reports on individual and class achievements. 4. Plan instruction. Use the data to inform your teaching strategies, ensuring lessons are differentiated to meet the diverse needs of all students. Now, in order to determine reading levels, we'll use a tool called a running record, where teachers assess a student's reading level by noting patterns of errors during reading, such as graphophonemic errors, confusions in sound letter relationships, e.g., reading bread as beard, semantic errors, mistakes in understanding meanings, like reading house instead of home, syntactic errors, errors in sentence structure, such as using over instead of under. You will likely also see exam questions about reading levels, so keep in mind that the independent level, where a student reads smoothly with minimal help, instructional level, where the student benefits from some teacher guidance, frustration level, texts that are too challenging even with support. It's highly likely that on your teacher certification exam, you will be asked how to effectively and appropriately communicating assessment results. So let's talk about the different people we share these results with. To students. Provide clear, specific feedback based on standards through daily interactions and periodic conferences. To parents, guardians. Share detailed updates on progress and areas for improvement through various communication methods like emails, meetings, and written reports. To school and district personnel. Ensure systematic reporting of progress and assessment results to support school-wide and district-wide planning and support. As you prepare for your test, it's essential to have a solid grasp of reading assessments to ensure your success on test day. To truly test your readiness and refine your skills, visit teacherpreps.com and take advantage of our reading assessment practice tests and secure your path to passing your teacher certification exam with flying colors. Communication. Welcome to your comprehensive guide on the foundations of communication, tailored specifically for elementary educators preparing for their certification exams. This guide will teach you the essential components of communication, including standard English conventions, word usage, and the interplay between listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We'll also explore major theories of child development that influence communication skills, practical strategies for classroom implementation, and the ethical considerations every teacher must embrace. Understanding standard English conventions is crucial for teaching elementary students. These rules govern how words are used to create meaningful sentences. For example, proper comma usage in lists is fundamental. I bought apples, oranges, bananas, and grapes. On test day, look out for questions that ask you to correct or identify errors in sentence structure and punctuation. Word usage determines how effectively a message is communicated. It involves choosing words that are appropriate for their meanings, contexts, and connotations. For instance, distinguishing between affect, a verb meaning to influence, and effect, a noun meaning the result, is vital. Understanding meaning, contexts, and connotations. The meaning of a word can significantly change depending on its context and the connotations it carries. For example, bear can be a verb meaning to endure or a noun referring to a mammal. Positive and negative connotations also affect word choice. Thrifty, positive versus cheap, negative. Sentence structures and text purposes. From simple to complex, understanding various sentence structures enhances reading and writing skills. Additionally, recognizing the purpose of different text types, narrative, informative, argumentative, is essential for developing targeted teaching strategies. Major theories of child development. Familiarity with developmental theories by Piaget, Skinner, Bandura, Vygotsky, Erikson, and Gardner will equip you to address diverse learning needs in the classroom. Questions on your exam may relate to applying these theories to real classroom scenarios, so let's get you 100% prepared for test day. Here's a brief introduction to each theorist's core belief. 1. Jean Piaget found that children actively construct their own cognitive worlds, learning through interaction with their environment and integrating new experiences with existing cognitive structures. 2. B.F. Skinner's behaviorist theory emphasizes that learning is a change in overt behavior, influenced by the environment's responses to one's actions, with reinforcement playing a key role in shaping behaviors. 3. Albert Bandura's social cognitive theory argues that learning occurs within a social context and involves a dynamic interplay between the individual, their behavior, and the environment, highlighting the importance of observational learning and modeling. 4. Lev Vygotsky's cognitive theory stresses the essential role of social interaction in cognitive development, proposing that community and culture significantly influence an individual's learning process. 5. Erik Erikson's psychosocial development theory outlines 8 stages of human development, each characterized by a specific conflict that individuals must resolve to progress successfully through life stages. 6. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences challenges the traditional view of a singular intelligence, instead suggesting that individuals possess a variety of distinct intelligences. Now, let's discuss the different modes of communication. Effective communication in the classroom involves various modes. Intrapersonal communication is all about reflecting on personal goals and motivations. Interpersonal communication means direct interactions, such as teacher-student feedback or peer discussions. Academic communication is structured exchanges within educational settings, like presenting research findings, integrating listening, speaking, reading, and writing. These 4 skills are interconnected and vital for comprehensive language development. Strategies to enhance these skills include interactive read-alouds for young learners and structured debates for older students. Communication skills, development across ages. Developing communication skills involves age-appropriate strategies, early childhood, focus on foundational listening and speaking through interactive activities. Lower elementary, expand vocabulary and sentence structure understanding through story retelling. Upper elementary, refine advanced skills with activities like critical listening and structured debates. Now, let's make sure you are ready to answer questions on your exam correctly about supporting diverse learners. Addressing the needs of English learners and students with special needs requires tailored strategies, such as using visual aids, simplifying language, and implementing scaffolded instruction. Excellent job, future teacher. For a more interactive learning experience and to test your knowledge, visit teacherpreps.com and take advantage of our specialized practice tests and study materials. Thanks for watching. English learners, literacy, development. Welcome to the essential guide for supporting English learners in literacy development at the elementary level. This chapter is designed to help you effectively address the diverse needs of ELs, integrating systematic language instruction, culturally responsive teaching, and tailored strategies to prepare you for your teacher certification exam. Systematic language instruction. Understanding how to implement systematic language instruction based on both formal and informal assessment outcomes is crucial. Here's what you need to focus on. Key concepts. Systematic instruction. Employ a structured and sequential approach to teaching English language learners, ensuring consistency and clarity in your lessons. Tailored instruction. Adapt teaching methods and materials to meet the unique needs and backgrounds of each student, informed by ongoing assessments. Assessment outcomes. Formal assessments. Utilize standardized tests and quizzes that are culturally and linguistically appropriate to gather quantitative data on student learning. Informal assessments. Employ observations, student interactions, and ungraded assignments to gain qualitative insights into students' language development, crucial for daily instructional adjustments. Implementation strategies, student profiles. Maintain detailed records of each student's language skills, learning preferences, and cultural background. Interest-based activities. Engage students by incorporating their interests into language tasks, enhancing motivation and relevance. Culturally responsive teaching. Integrate diverse cultural content into lessons to make learning more relevant and inclusive. Differentiation. Adjust lessons and assessments to accommodate different language levels and learning needs, using strategies like group work and scaffolding. Feedback. Provide clear, constructive, and positive feedback, encouraging self-assessment to help students recognize their progress. Differentiated instruction for language development. Differentiating instruction is key to meeting the varied needs of ELs. Here are effective strategies. Leverage first language knowledge. Utilize cognates and skills transferable from the student's first language to English, such as connecting artist in English with artista in Spanish. Address language differences. Be mindful of structural differences between English and the student's native languages, such as print directionality differences between English and languages like Arabic or Hebrew. Emphasize vocabulary. Provide intensive vocabulary instruction, focusing on key English words more extensively than with native speakers. Use visuals for vocabulary. Enhance vocabulary lessons with concrete objects, pictures, charts, and diagrams to support understanding. Model tasks. Explicitly demonstrate tasks clearly and slowly, ensuring that instructions are accessible and comprehensible to ELs. Cultural competency in teaching. Cultural competency is vital for creating an inclusive and effective learning environment. Here's how to integrate cultural awareness into your teaching. Understand diversity. Recognize and value the diverse cultures, languages, and backgrounds that students bring to the classroom. Incorporate cultural references. Use literature, examples, and content that reflect the cultures of your students to enhance relevance and engagement. Promote cultural identity. Encourage students to share their cultural experiences and perspectives, fostering an environment of mutual respect and understanding. Adapt teaching methods. Tailor your instructional strategies to align with the learning styles and cultural norms of different student groups, ensuring that all students feel supported and valued. By mastering these strategies, you will be well prepared for your teacher certification exam, but also equipped to provide a supportive, effective, and inclusive learning environment for English learners. Check your readiness for test day by visiting teacherpreps.com to complete the interactive study guides and practice tests. The writing process. Hello, future teacher. Welcome to your ultimate guide on mastering the writing process. This video will help get you totally prepared for your teacher certification exam, and in it, we'll cover the initial scribbles of young learners, all the way to their first structured essays. Ready to get started? Let's jump right in and begin with the developmental stages of writing. For your teacher certification exam, be on the lookout for questions that ask about how young children first express their thoughts. Understand that before they ever pick up a pencil to write, they communicate through drawings. Furthermore, note that a child's drawing is their first step toward communicating ideas visually. Look for answer solutions on test day that encourage these detailed drawings. Now, if you receive a question on test day that asks why these early drawings are important to a child's writing process, know that they develop fine motor skills and are foundational in linking visual thoughts to storytelling. Next up, we have dictation. As children's oral language skills blossom, they begin to dictate their stories, which is when the teacher writes and the child speaks. This stage serves as a bridge from drawing to writing, allowing children to focus on developing their language without the physical challenge of writing. When taking your exam, if you receive a question that asks about effective instructional strategies for dictations, find the answer option where the child demonstrates structured and clear thoughts during dictation sessions. This is the sign that children are ready to start writing on their own. Now, let's talk about the writing stage. This is where the real magic happens. Here, children begin to write words and sentences, initially using a mix of conventional and invented spelling. It's a fascinating phase where literacy skills begin to solidify. As a teacher, your role is to help children apply their understanding of phonetics, grammar, and vocabulary to communicate effectively through written text. Here's a big one. On the exam, understand that we as teachers assess our students' use of phonetic spelling through their ability to match sounds to letters, recognize word boundaries, and form coherent sentence structures. Now, Let's help you get 100% prepared for test day by covering the stages of the writing process. To do so, we'll start with pre-writing. This is the brainstorming stage where all writing begins. Here, writers gather ideas and start to form an outline in their minds. Encourage techniques like mind mapping, listing, or free discussions. Moving on to planning, where writers organize their scattered ideas into a coherent structure. If your exam asks you an effective strategy for helping students pinpoint the beginning, middle, or end of a story, look for answer options where the teacher uses visuals and scaffolds, such as outlines or storyboards. Now let's focus on the drafting stage, as it will likely appear on your exam. In this stage, know that drafting entails allowing students to freely put down their initial ideas without worrying about correctness or precision. If your exam asks you to select the most appropriate strategy for encouraging free writing, look for answer options that suggest allowing students to express their thoughts fluidly without interruption, such as providing prompts that inspire creativity or setting a timer to keep the writing flowing. Next up is the revising stage, where the focus shifts to improving the clarity and detail of the initial drafts. For exam questions related to revising strategies, choose answers that involve asking students to refine their drafts by reorganizing their content for better flow, enhancing descriptions, or clarifying vague points. Effective strategies might include peer review sessions, where students can get feedback, or using checklists that guide them to ask critical questions about their own work. Next is the editing stage, and this is all about correcting grammatical, spelling, and punctuation errors. On the exam, if you're faced with selecting the best editing practices, check for answers that highlight teaching students to use grammar check tools, proofread their work in stages, or engage in peer editing workshops where they can learn to spot and correct errors in each other's texts. Finally, we've made it to the publishing stage. This is where students are encouraged to share their finished work. The exam might test your knowledge of how to effectively facilitate this process. Look for answer options that include organizing classroom presentations, publishing students' work on a school website or a class bulletin board, or even creating a class book that showcases various writings. Each of these options demonstrates an understanding of how to celebrate and validate students' efforts in writing. For your teacher certification exam, be ready to tackle the modes of writing section, which will demonstrate your ability to guide students in effective communication. Here's how to approach this section. First up, we have narrative writing. Understand that narrative writing is centered on storytelling. It is characterized by elements like plot, characters, setting, and conflict. When faced with exam questions about narrative writing, choose answers that emphasize creating engaging stories with a clear beginning, middle, and end. Look for strategies that involve using vivid descriptions and character development to captivate readers. Second, we have expository writing, which is designed to inform or explain. This mode relies heavily on facts, logical organization, and clear presentation. If you receive a question on test day that asks you to identify the best methods for teaching expository writing, find the answer option that highlights the use of outlines to structure information. Furthermore, if there is an answer option that integrates various types of evidence, such as charts, graphs, and statistics to support the written content, that's more than likely the solution you're looking for. Ready for more? Great! The third stage is called argumentative writing, which aims to persuade the reader to accept a particular viewpoint through logical reasoning and evidence. For these questions, look for strategies that focus on developing a strong thesis statement, using credible sources for support, and structuring arguments in a coherent manner. Future teacher, I'm so proud of you. You're preparing for your teacher certification exam, and if you found this video, you are definitely in the right spot. Kudos to you because you've just completed a full walkthrough of the writing process. But don't stop here, because this is only the video lesson. If you're not already logged into your account, now it's time to visit teacherpreps.com and check your readiness for test day by taking the writing process practice test. Thanks for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next lesson.